Okay, so taking a short break from the true crime. The other thing that I've been posting about, other than Barbie ornaments, of course, is the fact that I have been on Manjaro. If you're not familiar with Manjaro, I don't know what rock you're living under, but it is a type 2 diabetes medication that is being used off label for weight loss. Now, full transparency about it, I have had problems with my weight most of my life. Both of my parents were overweight. I've spent the majority of my life overweight, if not extremely overweight. And I also struggle with an eating disorder. When I was younger, it would go back and forth between bulimia and just binge eating. And as I became an adult, it did just become full on binge eating. Now, that is not something that I say lightly. It is not something that is anything that I encourage. It is actually horrible for your body. It's horrible for your mind. And the damage that it has helped cause to my psyche, mental health, whatever, is just terrible. Sorry, I was eating popcorn earlier and there was a piece in my mouth. So after several attempts to lose weight and not being able to, I've been to my doctor. I saw my primary care physician several times about it. I was finally just so frustrated that I was willing to do anything. And I've always been against weight loss surgery for myself, not because I think it's bad or anything. I think it's wonderful, but it's just not something that I think would do well for me with my binge eating and it being triggered by stress or something. I worried that if I didn't deal with the mental part of it, if it didn't get dealt with exactly how it should, that I would have issues with um, post-op on down the line, even a year or two in, binge eating on a smaller stomach and some of the issues that it can cause. Now, I have friends that have had like VSG and lap band and stuff, and they do amazing with it, and I love that. I think it's amazing that those things are available. But for me, it was the last option. Now, I do want to preface this, and this is going to end up being a couple videos. I'm sorry, because this is going to be my first dose review. So if you're here for the true crime stuff, you're probably going to want to skip a few videos. But this is just me as a person talking about what I'm going through. Now, I've mentioned before that my mother passed away when I was 25. My mother passed away when I was 25 from a pulmonary embolism that she suffered, which is an air bubble in your lung, your pulmonary artery. And, she suffered this as a result of dialysis complications. And she was on dialysis because of her diabetes. Head to the next part. My Manjaro review, part 2. So, like I said, my mother died ultimately as a complication of diabetes. And not only do I look exactly like my mother, but I'm built exactly like my mother. My mother died at 60. I was only 25, and it hit me very hard, like last year, that if I don't do something about this, and if I live a similar life to my mother and my body starts giving out around the same time that hers did, I'm 2/3 of the way through my life. Which, I mean, shit, today could be my last day. I don't know. But it was eye-opening to me. I don't want to leave my son at 25 like I was left, if I can at all help it. Now, of course, this was not my mother's fault. My mother had a lot of issues in her life that led her to this. And it's not my story to tell. So it's not one that I'm going to put out on the internet, just for God and anybody to understand. So ultimately, I decided this is it. Something has to change. Now, in the midst of this, I also found out that I need a pretty extensive jaw surgery. I'm sure you've noticed that my teeth are crooked. I have that one tooth right there that's way far back and it's super distracting. But more than that, my jaw is too far back. It is actually impeding on my airway. This is something that has to be fixed. However, I currently am too large for the surgery. I saw my surgeon over the summer and he wants me to lose a significant amount of weight. It's actually 2 surgeries over the course of a couple years. He wants me to lose a significant amount of weight before we proceed with the surgeries. Now, this condition will continue to get worse and I will ultimately stop breathing at night the way that I sleep. And It's positional. It's not sleep apnea. I've had sleep studies and everything else done. And basically, something had to change, and there was no other option. So, of course, I went back to my usual, the intermittent fasting, which is what the doctor recommended because apparently he had lost a good bit of weight on that. I've had friends that have lost weight on that. I tried that. I'm not doing keto. I'm not eating a bunch of cream cheese and losing weight. That's very Atkins diet in 2000, and that was bad enough the first time. Ultimately, everything failed, and I actually went to my primary care doctor frustrated because I was gaining weight. And part of the gaining weight was because I would get frustrated when the scale wouldn't budge and then I would binge eat. So when I went to see him, he brought up the idea of taking a medication for weight loss. And the one that I had heard of was Ozempic. I left his office, looked into it, and decided that ultimately I would give it a try. So I made another appointment to go back and talk to him. Head to part 3. Part 3 of my Manjaro review, journey, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm long-winded. If you're here and don't know that by now, I don't know what to tell you. So I went back and saw my primary care doctor about Ozempic. I had read mixed reviews about it, that it worked really great for some people. It just worked okay for others. But with my insulin resistance, I've been told that I had PCOS before, but I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. That was a long time ago. I've been on metformin, all these different medications. I decided, what the hell, let's give it a shot. Downloaded the coupon card even before my appointment and went in there. And he ultimately suggested Manjaro. Manjaro is not one I had really heard of, other than when I was looking up Ozempic on TikTok. I had seen some videos about Manjaro, and as far as I was concerned, they were pretty much the same thing. So I was a little disappointed at first that he put me on a different medication than I had looked into, but I ultimately went along with it. I downloaded that coupon card, and I picked up my prescription the next day. Now, you've seen me take my shots. I'm a total fucking weenie about it, but I got my prescription. I went home. I took my first injection, and I decided, what the hell, let's just give it a shot. Now, I started on the first dose that everybody starts on, or I assume everybody starts on, or the loading dose of 2.5 milligrams. I have been on 2.5 milligrams for 2 months. And when I tell you, the day I started taking it, within a couple of hours, it started working. Now, it is an injectable. If you scroll back, you've seen my super chaotic way of taking my medication. My son has to help me count it down. It's a hot mess. But I did ultimately start taking it. I had looked up, and several people said that injecting in their thigh was better for them. So I started doing that, and I haven't gone away from that because I have very minimal side effects with that. So like I said, I have been on Manjaro for 2 months. I was on 2.5 milligrams. I did have a defective dose that the needle didn't work. So I only took 7 shots of Manjaro. My starting weight for this, and I absolutely hate that I'm putting this on the internet for God and everybody and people who don't like me to see, but here we are. So my starting weight was right here, was 315. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. 315.9. I started my injections, and this is at night. I started my injections on October 18th of this year. Now, of course, it has wavered a little bit. It has gone up and down. It's been a little frustrating, but my eating has not been wonderful sometimes as well. But ultimately, as of yesterday, I am down 13, almost 14 pounds at 302. Now, for those who have told me that I don't look like I'm 300 pounds, God bless you. I love you. You're my favorite. And for reference, here is my body just a week after I started at 305. Part 4 of Manjaro. I promise the updates will get a little shorter, but I haven't really delved into like my backstory or anything. So yes, of course I have lost weight on this medication. It has been a process. It's been a little up, a little down, a little frustrating, but ultimately the weight is coming off, and the weight is coming off easily because this medication fucking works. And not only does it work in the weight loss area, but this is going to make me sound insane, but so many people have told me that they have this as well. And it should come as no surprise to any of you that there is a voice in my head. I know, insert joke here, whatever. But that voice in my head that is constantly telling me you're bored, eat, you're upset, eat. You know what won't disappoint you? Food. You know what'll make you feel better? Food. You know who won't insult you? Food. Because it's hard when you are somebody who is not well liked when you want to be. It's hard taking rejection from people when you work a job like I do, where you have to be really hard. You end up being really hard on yourself anytime that you're human and make a tiny mistake. You're working a job like I do, where, cooking lunch and things like that are not really an option. You're lucky if you have a couple seconds to shove a piece of pizza in your mouth. It's just typically not a very healthy thing to do. And I'm not the type of person that's going to schedule myself a lunch break. I'm just not. I'm just going to have chaos all day because it's just who I am. So over the years, I have been a big emotional eater. Anytime somebody upsets me, rejects me, talks down to me, ghosts me, whatever, it's eat, you'll feel better. When I tell you that voice is gone, it is gone. My mind is quiet. And I don't know if you can tell, I don't do that real often. Now, naturally, the normal undiagnosed ADHD over here is running rampant. But my self-destructive behaviors have all but stopped. Now, I do still have a couple that I'm working on. And I am being very wary of addiction transfer, which, if you're not familiar with, I can get into that. I am making sure that I am not, drinking more, spending more, anything like that, which seems in direct contrast to the amount of Barbie ornaments that I'm ordering. But yeah. But ultimately, this medication has completely changed the way that my brain thinks about a lot of things that controlled me. Food being one of them, of course, and then there are other things as well. I know that sounds crazy, but the people who get it, get it. And I'm not the only one who said this. I've seen TikToks that say this, and I've met people in person that say the same thing. A friend of mine even quit smoking. She wasn't even intending to. She just hated him. Go to the next part. All right, finally, part 5 of my Manjaro story, Manjaro journey, Manjaro review, whatever you want to call it. So, like I said, I have been on Manjaro since October 18th of this year. It is currently, today is December the 5th, so it is 7 weeks. I've been on it for 2 months, but I've only had 7 doses because I did have a defective one. I have heard a lot of things about people having a hard time getting their prescriptions for $25. I guess this medication's gotten really big because it is so effective and because it is absolutely blown up on TikTok. But I've not had any issues yet. And as a matter of fact, my 5 milligrams that I picked up the other day was free at my local pharmacy. Sorry, my phone's shaking. I was holding it with my left hand. I needed a drink. I do use a local pharmacy that is we don't have blocks here, but it'd be like 5 blocks from my house. It's not very far. I did go to high school with the pharmacist. I know we do all of our prescriptions there, and they have been able so far to get it filled for the $25, and I've had no issues. As far as side effects from the medication, I generally don't have very many. Now, when I do my injections, I do them in my thigh. I prefer my right thigh. I don't know why, I just do. My left thigh has some nerve problems and stuff from my C-section 7 years ago. So I just tend to avoid things on that thigh anyway. So I get my medication out in the morning. I let it sit out. It is refrigerated, but it can sit at room temperature for up to like 21 days or something. And it stings less if it's not cold. So I set my medication out on the counter before I leave for work that morning, or if it's on a weekend when I wake up, I sit it out. I have started taking it on Saturday nights, and I'll get into that here in a minute why. But I let it sit out all day. I go about my business. And then that night, about an hour before I go to bed, I take my shot. Now, the reason I have behind this is that if I'm going to have any minor side effects like nausea, headache, anything like that, I would sleep through it. Now whether that's true or not, I don't know. But so far, I haven't had any. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Now, when I give myself the shot, it stings. It stings so bad. I don't feel the needle at all. The needle is super, super tiny. I do not feel the shot. It is a little jarring because it's an auto injector. And if you've never used one of those, like an EpiPen or something, that medication shoots out of there. It's basically pressurized in there. And doing that, it does make some clicks and some loud noises. And it is a little bit jarring at first, but you get used to it eventually. The medication does sting when it goes in, but that lasts less than 10 seconds. I do have a little bit of bruising at my injection site, and I do bruise a little easier with this medication, but I've always bruised. I really need to get longer than 3-minute videos if I'm just going to be this damn windy about everything. So head to part 6, and I promise we'll be done. Part 6, I'm sorry, I have no editing abilities or editing my talking. So like I said, I give myself my shots at night. I ultimately elect to give myself my shots on Saturday nights because the only real side effect that I have from this that is more than just, stinging at the time of the injection is that I sleep about 12 hours the sleep that I take after I take my shot. I was originally doing my shot on Sundays, but I worked for my family business on Monday, and I was ending up not even waking up until almost noon. My husband was having to take my son to school. So I ultimately decided to start taking my shot on Saturday nights before I go to bed, and then I can sleep as late as I want on Sunday. Unfortunately, we did get out of the habit of going to church around the time that COVID started, and I probably should start doing that again, so don't judge me. So I do sleep about 12 hours the day that I take it. I have had minimal nausea. My doctor did call me in a refillable prescription of Zofran. I have not had to take any yet. Um, it isn't that bad. I'll basically have fleeting moments of nausea. I don't notice any more headaches than usual. I don't notice any more side effects than what I normally get. So overall, I had a great experience with 2.5 milligrams. I did start 5 milligrams this past Saturday, so I am 2 days into that. I was starting to lose a good bit of my appetite suppression there towards the end of 2.5. I don't know if my body was just probably getting used to it or something. But it is back full time today. I didn't eat very much today. I had to remind myself to take in some food. But I will say I'm not dieting while I'm doing it, but I'm also trying to just watch how much I eat, because if you do eat too much, you do get sick. Now, I have yet to throw up from the medication, but I hear a lot of people do, but I have gotten nauseous if I've eaten too much. You get that feeling in your stomach like you do after you've been to like your third Thanksgiving dinner of the day, where your stomach just physically feels like it is blown up like a balloon. It's very uncomfortable. Don't recommend. Now, I do plan on filming a couple more of the what I eat in a days. I find those helpful for other people that are on Manjaro, that what they're eating to make sure that they have enough protein. I've read and heard from TikToks and articles and everywhere that protein is the main thing with Manjaro. It keeps you from getting sick. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I have finally found a protein shake that I can actually stomach and not throw up. So I am living on the Fairlife protein shakes right now. And I am making sure that I take in a good amount of lean meat protein. So that's all for today. I'll let you know how 5 milligrams go. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below.